Happy Monday, guys, or is it? The market is pretty red. Bitcoin longs are getting liquidated. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some big Iren news. They're expanding their GPU fleet. We're also going to talk about Semler Scientific being acquired. Now, as for liquidations, we saw $1.7 billion worth of liquidations, and longs taking the vast majority of that $1.6 billion hit because of how much Bitcoin has recently fallen down, and other cryptocurrencies as well. And this article reminds us that September is historically the worst performing month for crypto market returns. It's also typically a horrible month when you're talking about a peak year like 2025. And that's not what we've been seeing from Bitcoin so far. So far, September has actually been a good month, and even then, even with this drop, it's still a green September so far. But we'll talk about Bitcoin's chart in a minute, talk about a pattern that broke, a pattern that we were watching. Mr. Crypto reminds us that October is on the horizon, and I wanted to show you the month prior. This is September, typically a bad month, not always, but typically, especially if you're talking about a peak year, 2021. We're in 2025, that's a peak year. We'll see what happens. 2017, a bad year. But what comes after? October, typically a great month for Bitcoin, for crypto in general, especially if you're talking about a peak year. 10 out of 12 Octobers have been bullish since 2013, and the past 6 have seen considerable market rallies. I think Green Day says it best: wake me up when September ends. Now that the cheese is out of the way, let's talk about Bitcoin. We did see a break of our pattern, this ascending trend, this clear trend that Bitcoin has been following, and we got a market reaction on the drop of it, on the break of it, along with the break of the 50 MA. Now it's a matter of seeing Bitcoin test this previous trend line, this longer term trend line that it's been in since April of 2025, just this steady uptrend. We are at the bottom of it. We're going to test this support. Maybe we crash down to the 200 MA. It's still September after all. But before we even think about the 200 MA, we're going to have to test this ascending support line. Keep in mind that this is where September started at 108, 109,000. So we are still looking at a good September. Will this buck the trend? Will this break the norm? Will we see finally a green September on a peak year? I don't know the answer. We're going to have to just wait and see. Keep an eye on your trends. Keep your eye on this uptrend. If we break it, prepare for some more pain. Prepare to watch how we do at 107. If we break that, maybe that 200 MA is in sight. Keep in mind that at the end of September, we do have one inflation data to look at, and that's going to be PCE, the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation. So Bitcoin might move towards the end of the month based on that. But let's look into some other news that's going on here. We do have some pretty big news from Iren. They're expanding their GPU fleet. They're doubling their GPUs to 23,000 and raising their annualized revenue run rate target to 500 million. Meaning, once they reach this point, their revenue for AI on a yearly basis will reach $500 million. In other words, about $125 million quarterly. And hey, they got to get it while the getting's good. While the market is rewarding these announcements, they might as well keep announcing them. They might as well keep announcing that they're adding more GPUs and keep aggressively pushing this AI narrative. Do I think Iren will go much higher in price over multiple years? If you're talking about 3 to 5 years, absolutely. If it's going to remain profitable, it will continue to grow into these higher and higher valuations. But you also have to ask yourself, over the next couple months, what are you going to get at a 40 something dollar share price? For you to even get a double from here, it has to go to $80. This is a different Iren than the Iren that was $5, $10, $15. We're talking about a 40 something dollar Iren. If you ask me, a lot of their growth is priced in. But like I said, if they can consistently remain profitable quarter after quarter, they will continue to grow into their valuation and even potentially deserve higher valuations over time. But there's no denying that Iren is overbought. It's the most overbought it's been in its trading history. If you're talking about on the weekly here, it's at almost 90. It did finally break this pattern that it's been in since the beginning of the cycle when Iren was only $1. So I would be very cautious. We also have a bearish divergence. We have a lower high from the RSI and a higher high from the stock price. It is far away from its moving averages. I would exercise caution with Iren if it's now a larger position in your portfolio because it's ran so much. If it's becoming a larger percentage, I would consider trimming it. Risk management is key. Lock in some gains, and then you won't be as concerned if Iren goes down. It might also give you another buying opportunity to jump back in with more shares. But I personally do think if you're a little heavy on Iren, especially with all this moving, which would make sense, To me, it makes sense to sell a little bit of shares, at least trim, not necessarily sell everything, especially if you believe in Iren on the long term, on the 3 to 5 year. But this is certainly a different Iren than when it was $1, $5, $10. We're talking about a 40-something stock. Like I said, to make a double on this, it needs to go to 80. Are we going to get another 5x, 10x, 20x out of this? Not on this cycle, if you ask me. Can it double on more AI hype? Possibly. But who wants to buy Iren at $50? You have to ask yourself. $60, $70, $80. Maybe someone does, but that someone isn't me. Now, we also have news that Strive acquires Semler Scientific. And I wonder if we see more of these kind of collaborations, a way for these companies to quickly boost their Bitcoin treasury and stay relevant, stay in the top 5, stay in the top 10. Keep getting that hype because they're among the greatest, among the top treasury companies. Because as more pile in, you'll have to differentiate yourself. You'll have to have a very large balance versus your peers for investors to be willing to throw money at you. But I'm just curious what you guys think of this. Does this mean there's more to come? Are we going to see more mergers, more acquisitions between the Bitcoin miners? As a way for a company to quickly boost their Bitcoin balance, I do think we'll see that. But I'll leave everything I go over down below for you guys. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Here's to a good week. We've got a couple of days left for September. Who knows what it'll bring us? Maybe it ends red. But I think it's not going to be as rough as other Septembers have been, where we have this massive flash crash. But do know that that's typical of a September. We get these, these sharp drops. This one came right at the end here. This was last cycle in 2021. Before we rallied to end that year. That's the main point. So in my opinion, take advantage of September if we do get any weakness. But thanks as always for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.